do do doom do doom do doom 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 doom. Jigsaw Radio is a work of instant fiction, sometimes a little bit less instant than intended. All characters and other entities appearing in this work are fictitious. Any resemblance to real persons, dead or alive, or other real-life entities, past or present, is purely coincidental or employed for the purposes of satire. Please listen responsibly, and please, by all means, be careful of technological changes that come out of nowhere and make you look like a complete sweaty fool.
Abercrombie Welton has an unusual house.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, we dug a basement, but then we dug another basement for the basement, and we just kept on making basements.
That's up in a minute on Jigsaw Radio. First, your news with Eva Caballero.
Thank you, Tara Gracie. Welcome to Jigsaw Radio. I'm Eva Caballero, sitting in for Jim Redring. Chet wasn't sitting down. In our top news, a sea serpent was spotted not far away in the canal just south of West Grumsley. Residents of West Grumsley reported the beast as coming up the canal looking for bread. As the residents of West Grumsley were currently picking up their allotment of high-end artisanal small batch bread, they were particularly annoyed with the serpent. Their small children chased the beast away. A woman was aghast to find a rude pizza receipt in her wallet for 3 years. Every day she would take the receipt out of her wallet and look at it, but today, in East Grumsley, on the street, she finally removed it for good. The woman was quoted as saying, "I can't believe this receipt for $80.08 has stayed with me for so long." An East Grumsley building collapse has people wondering whether Mr. John Ball has been following all of the rules for building buildings in East Grumsley. John Ball has been quoted as saying that, well, of course, all of the rules have been followed. That's what rules are for. Rules are for being followed when building buildings in East Grumsley. The building was unavailable for comment. Soon there'll be more shin ball at the local arena of sports. West Grumsley residents are looking forward to East Grumsley residents invading their half of the town to attend the arena that they couldn't afford to pay their taxes for. But the shin ball sporting will commence in just a few weeks, and almost everyone involved who stands anything to gain is quite excited. And finally, today in East Grumsley, a large group of women have been causing a ruckus for blatantly following all known laws and regulations. The women were seen flagrantly flaunting their rights to follow the law to the letter. Somehow, local men found this to be disturbing, how brazenly these women were acting in completely living within their rights, and called the police. The police chief has been quoted as saying he is consulting with the mayor and with the city council, but until the city council results are in and the new city council has reached its seats, then it will be impossible to address this horror, this scandal of women obeying the law. I'm Eva Cavallero, sitting in for Jim Redring. That's the news. We now return to Jigsaw Radio with Tara Gracie.
Thank you, Ava. When the first settlers came to this area, long, long ago, they didn't build houses. They didn't build tents. They found networks of caves. And they moved in, and they found the caves, and they moved in, and they lit their fires. And they moved in and they looked for outlets, but there weren't any outlets yet because there were caves, and they weren't wired with electricity. No, when the first residents of the Grumsley area came and they moved into these caves, they discovered a vast network of mystery under the ground. You're listening to Jigsaw Radio. I'm Tara Gracie. We're talking about underground today. Things underground, the concept of underground, generally everything below our feet. Our show is in 3 acts today. Act 1, Making a Mountain. You've heard a lot about the mole people. I know I have. I grew up here, on and off. The mole people were always something that we heard about and something we studied a little bit in school, but we didn't really understand. It wasn't something that we really had any sense about. But I talked to a woman who lived here before the treaty, before we, and I say we here with some reluctance, but a sense of real responsibility nonetheless, before we drove the mole people away. I spoke to a woman by the name of Florence Henderson. She's 97 years old. She was here. She was here back before the mole people left, before we sent them underground. Yeah, I do remember. I do remember the mole people. You know, they got a bum rap. The mole people did. They were here before we were, and we came in. And you know, if we hadn't gotten lazy, and moved into those caves. My parents lived in those caves. My parents, when they were younger, when our family first came here, my parents lived in those caves, and they met the mole people there, and my parents introduced me to some mole people. I liked them. There was one named well, we didn't understand the mole people all the time because they talk different. But we called him Dicker, And I know it sounds rude now, but it wasn't supposed to sound rude. I know it sounds is you're not supposed to say these things anymore. Digger's not a word you can use anymore. But back then we didn't know any better.
Now, Florence, what happened with the mole people? We hear so many conflicting stories, and we hear about the riots. We hear about the skirmishes, and
well, yeah, sure, there was some violence. There was some violence. Yes, there was, and but you know, I think they was just trying to defend themselves against us. I mean, we took their caves away. We moved in. We didn't have to. We came here. We could have built. We could have made do up on the surface where we're supposed to be. But no, we saw these caves and they were cool. I think it was because we moved to Grumsley in the summertime, and if we hadn't done that, maybe we would have if it was fall, we would have just built some buildings and insulated them, and we would have been fine. And maybe then we would have met the mole people on different terms. But we felt entitled to these caves because it was summer and the mole people were elsewhere. They were doing their thing. You know, they have things that they do, and well,
you said that they were trying to get their caves back.
Well, yeah, but we took all the caves, and then even after we built houses, we stayed in the caves. We turned them into wine cellars in West Grumsley. East Grumsley, well, we shared a bit more in East Grumsley, but still, I mean, it's hard. I mean, imagine if you came home and someone was just in your root cellar, just living there. And not maybe not even living there, just put their stuff there, and you come and say, well, but that's my root cellar, and maybe they say, well, but I got here, and so now we have to share.
It's Florence Henderson. She was here. She explained to me that there was a lot of violence, but it's taken on a lot of color over the years. It's taken on a mythic quality, and us versus them. And back then, she said it wasn't exactly like that.
No, there was plenty of folk that was fighting on the digger side. I saw the mole people side. There on both sides, really. There was even some mole people who was trying to get the other mole people to stop fighting. Because they was getting paid by some of the folks that were found in the West Grumsley folk, was paying them to for the caves, and so some of the more people was making a nice tidy bit of money off of it. So it was confusing back then, but mostly the violence was just because people just wouldn't talk. Because people wouldn't take the time to talk, and more importantly, people wouldn't take the time to listen to each other and understand that just because some people have big claws on their fingers and maybe some bad eyesight, it don't mean that you get to take their homes away. It don't mean that you get to destroy the way of life. It don't mean that once you've done all that you somehow ain't responsible for them. And people just couldn't talk back then. I think we're better at talking now. I hope we are.
It's Florence Henderson. Come to Act 2 of our program. Act 2. Ain't Seen Nothing Yeti. Now, you may have tuned into the city council debates not long ago and heard our beloved Abercrombie Welton speak. And, well, as we know, Abercrombie Welton is a firm believer in mole people rights, but also
addressing our theme of underground, he's a bit of a underground candidate when you think about it.
Well, yeah, like I said, I've run 27 times, never won. Every time I come in dead last. I don't know why that is. I think maybe just all the people that like me, just maybe they don't they don't get out and vote. But yeah, run 27 times, and every time I'm saying the same thing. We need to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. We need to bridge the gap between the haves and have-nots. We need to actually make some reparations for what we've done as a human race, as a Yeti race. Yetis and mole people, Yetis and humans. Nobody's gotten along through history, and but we all have to work together. I mean, the world's too small now. World's too small to keep fighting. At least with violence. I'll fight with words.
You will fight with words. You've been known to fight with many words, Mr. Welton.
Oh, call me Abercrombie, Terry. Come on, you call me Abercrombie.
Okay, I will. I've known you from afar for many years, but it's good to finally get to sit down with you.
Well, it's good to finally be on a place where we can actually finally talk. So what was you saying about how you working me into your theme here, your underground theme?
Well, I was just saying that you're a bit of an underground candidate.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I mean, everyone knows me.
Well, that's, I suppose, but you certainly play lower, more closer to the chest, and well, maybe more grassroots.
Well, grassroots, I will go with that. I'm definitely grassroots. And about all I got in my bank account is grass and roots. But yeah, no. I like to keep it earthy. I like to keep it down to earth, I suppose, is how maybe that would work.
You've sided with the mole people. You've sided with the Yetis. You yourself are half Yeti, and you're trying to fight against all the developments in East Grumsley. How do you think that that's going to affect your chances of getting on the city council this your 28th time running?
Well, probably about the same as usual. Probably, really at this point, I generally hope to squeak by in a third place rather than coming in dead last like so many times before. What's funny, Tara, is that so many people say that they agree with me, but nobody seems to want to see me in the city council chamber. And I think it's well, you know what? I think it's like that underground thing you're talking about. I think that they don't want me to get too popular. They want me out there fighting. They want to hear my voice, my voice, my consternation, speaking out, ringing out through the streets, and they're afraid that if I get on the city council, that maybe I might actually run out of things to be angry with, or get corrupted or something.
I don't think that people think you're going to be corrupted.
I don't know. People say, "Well, I don't want you pure, Mr. Abercrombie. I want you to be your pure self." And I keep on saying, "Well, I ain't no pure man. I ain't even whole man. I'm pure man and pure Yeti, and neither one is all that pure, you know what I mean?"
Well, Abercrombie, if you do get on city council, and you yourself have said that you don't believe that is to be the case, but if you do get on, then well, you didn't really get to address this in the debates. What would you do to bridge the gap between the residents of Grumsley area and the mole people that have started coming back, and not always in terribly pleasant ways?
Well, You're talking about the crosswalk fires.
Yeah, the crosswalk fires and a few incidents of unconfirmed reports of protests and possible violence.
Well, okay. Thing about unconfirmed reports is they're unconfirmed, and when you get an unconfirmed report, you have to really carefully listen to who is doing the unconfirming on that report, you see, because it's in the best interest of West Grumsley and the fat cats that are trying to take over this city. It is their best interest to keep people afraid. Keep people afraid of the mole people, afraid of residents of East Grumsley, afraid of anybody who doesn't want to turn every building in East Grumsley into an empty box of flashing lights. Now, as to the crosswalks, well, I've talked to some of my friends in the mole people community, and yes, I will go on record as saying I have friends in the mole people community. I'm not afraid of saying that because some of them, most of them, are not violent. There's a small fraction, just like there's a small fraction of humans, way too big a fraction if you ask me. There's a small fraction of any creature. Is a little bit more violent, maybe a little bit less patient, a little bit less willing to bridge that gap, do that listening. Every sentient being has a faction like that. I'm not friends with those. I try not to be. No, I like talking with people who like to talk. I like listening to people who like to listen. I find that those people, well, they aren't violent, and they aren't taking the lives of innocents, and they aren't using the power to bully. They aren't using the power to frighten people. Now, some of it was a few mole people that did those crosswalk fires. Now, they weren't nearly as dangerous as anyone thought. No one actually got hurt. It was a spectacle. It was a stupid spectacle, and I happen to know that that elders in the mole people community were not happy about that. But mostly, if I get on city council, I'm going to make a place for mole people to talk so that we can listen, because that's what needs to happen in Grumsley. We need to listen for once.
Thank you, Abercrombie Welton. We've come to final act of our program, Act 3. Just plain dirt. We close our show with this little short story from Larimore Patoon. Larimore is a florist in East Grumsley, and he tells us a quick note about what underground means to him.
Well, I know that you often get flowers coming up from the ground, but East Grumsley is the only place I ever known where you get flowers that go back down. Now, some people think that it's because they're scared of the sky. But I happen to know it's because the best bees are dirt bees. The dirt bees, they're the ones that pollinate the best. The dirt bees, they like these weirdo flowers. U-turn flowers, I bill them as. I don't know what they're called. So there was this one day when I was out getting my stock ready for the store, and here come all these flowers. They're all just up right out of the dirt. And I turned away, grabbed some tools, do my thing, turn back, boop. They'd all stuck their heads back in the dirt. And I thought, I'd never seen it happen. I've never seen it happen.
I don't know how those flowers moved so quickly. But now I know. Because that morning, I heard a rumble. I heard a shake. I heard a terrible vibration. And then, all of a sudden, the very surface of the earth just opened up. Holes here and there, everywhere. And then rising up, dirt bees. They had normal bee shape. The dirt bees did. They were shaped like normal bees, except their wings were hard and a little bit curved, like shovels. And they could still fly, just barely, just enough to get up out of the dirt and see where they were. Because the dirt bees, from what I can tell, they don't have any sort of sonar. They don't have any sort of sense under the ground. They have to come up, look around for those special kind of flowers that stick their heads down. It would seem that this is a terrible adaptation for both types of creature, but somehow they find each other. The flower goes down, funk. The bee comes up, pop. Orients back down the hole, and then it flaps. And as it flaps, dirt flies out of the hole. And as it flaps harder, dirt flies and flies and flies and flies. And then you see a little tug on the stem of that flower. And then after a second, flower goes, comes right back up. And you'd think it'd be dirty, but no. Clean as a whistle. The dirt bees take care of that too. They wipe all the dirt off the flower and take it back to use for their nests. They pollinate the flowers underground. Flowers come back. They look at the sun. They say, here I am. I don't carry those flowers in my store anymore. Oh, I still have them in my garden. Oh, yes. But the dirt bee, it's so rare, it's so precious. No one has had a chance to study it. I'm not going to take its food away. Not even one. No, I'm going to protect those flowers. I'm going to protect those dirt bees, too. It's amazing. The kind of world that is completely foreign, completely unknown, right below our feet. Larimer Patoon and his dirt bees. Thank you for your dirt bees, our good friend. This has been Jigsaw Radio. My name is Tara Gracie. Underground is an interesting place to be. Hopefully, though, in the coming weeks, months, years, decades, we might find our way out of the ground, into the light, with a better understanding of everything that goes around us, a better understanding of the strange things that live and breathe and walk and swim and shovel with little tiny wings. But until then, I'm Tara Gracie. And you can join us next time on Jigsaw Radio. Good night.